morning, Go-Go.
G'day, g'day.
How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm not bad. I'm a little tired. I can't lie. I slept very poorly last night.
Oh, that
Uh,
sucks.
yeah, I woke up on the hour, literally on the hour. Have you ever done this where you wake up and you wake up a couple of times throughout the night and it's the exact same to the minute, like half an hour later? Like I don't
No,
know if
that's
that's
creepy though.
but it certainly happened to me last night. So I think it was 2 a.m. or no, it was whatever it was. It was like 2, I don't know, 2:01, whatever. I can't even remember now, but it was the exact hour after hour after hour, 3 hours I woke up. And then at 5 a.m. I finally just gave up and then started playing a video game on my phone, which, and truthfulness, I might have spent 6 hours today playing.
What what game? Double Up? The Double
No,
Up game?
no, it's what is it called? I don't even know what it's called. I've been playing it for years.
Classic
Toon,
Clans.
Toon
Oh,
Blaster. Toon Blaster.
Toon Blaster. Holy, that sounds deadly.
So that is Toon Blaster.
You never got into the Candy Crush? Oh, it
No,
looks
but
kind of similar, doesn't it?
I think it's pretty similar. And so this is Toon Blaster, and I play it both on my phone and my iPad.
Mm-hmm.
And they have like teams, right? And so I've joined the same team with two different names. So when I'm like on a roll and I'm like committed like that, I'm alternating between both my iPad and my phone. And so yeah, but it was exactly what I needed. I needed just to lay and do nothing today. Like it was delightful. I was
Nice.
yeah, it was absolutely delightful.
Heck
But
yeah.
what did you do today?
Yeah. I took it pretty easy. I slept in pretty late today, and then just picked up my dog, came back, chilled with him for a little bit, played like games for like half an hour, and then found out my kitchen sink was leaking. So the pipes were leaking, so I had to get after that, fix that and stuff. And
So to recap for our friends, you got home yesterday from
yeah, I got home at like 2 a.m. I think
oh
last
my
night.
goodness. Oh
Yeah,
goodness.
from Orlando.
And you did a marathon.
Yeah, we did a half marathon.
Half a
Yeah, I
marathon.
didn't finish it though. I didn't get to finish it.
No?
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah,
Like did
I
you
think
run?
Brady did it in like an hour. I want to say like hour 45.
And how long is the marathon?
I want to say 21.3 kilometers,
Holy moly.
13.1 miles, maybe. Does that sound right?
Well, I think that is
Yeah, 13.1 miles.
I think that's absolutely fantastic. That is amazing. Congratulations to all of you. And your mama, she finished it?
Yeah, mom, dad, and Brady all finished it. Yeah, and I stayed back with Maddie because Maddie they got T-boned in traffic on the highway there like a month or two ago,
Oh
and
goodness.
so like they're like still kind of messed up from it, right? So I just stayed back with them and we took it easy and walked and got passed by the infamous balloon girls, balloon people. I guess they're kind of famous in like the Disney Run world
Are they
because a lot of people don't.
or are they
Yeah,
actually
they're like this like just group of people that stay at the very back, and they have like balloons tied on their wrists, and they like walk and I guess it's like the minimum pace that you have to meet to finish the marathon. Yeah, and they're like kind of like lightly jogging, speed walking and stuff, and then they have a bunch of people on bikes and they go around and they're like, can you like keep the pace? And then they ask you, and I was like, no, like we're injured, so we're not probably gonna get picked up. And so at like once you hit the 5 kilometer mark, there's they have like a bunch of workers there lined up, and then like a bunch of buses. And if you get passed by those certain people, then they put you on buses and take you to the front, the finish line.
go. So they're called the balloon ladies. That's what that is
Yeah,
that is their name.
yeah. And
Balloon.
a lot of people wonder you do get your medal if you get picked up. So I did still get my medal. And I
Now,
mean, you pay all that money, why not, right? Just give me the medal.
Now there you go. Look at that.
There
Props
we
up.
go.
Props
Yeah.
up for
Oh, it
Brennan.
says right on there, 13.1.
There you go,
Yeah.
Princess
Not bling.
Marathon. Very nice. Corey
Yeah.
says hello. Corey is there. He says, "Hey guys, hey
Oh, good
Corey."
day, Corey.
Last night we were out with Corey and his son Teus, who celebrated his 17th birthday.
Dang. Happy birthday. Happy belated.
Yeah, so that was a lovely way to spend a Saturday night.
Yeah. I just got back from my Gajus. I just stopped in for food real quick. They're celebrating my godmom's birthday.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. I want to say 51, maybe 52. I think she's only a couple years older than my mom. So
yeah.
yeah, it was actually funny because I walked in and literally as they start singing happy birthday, I just like joined in the back, start singing happy birthday. Like, what the hell?
Oh, that's
Yeah, it
awesome.
was perfect time. Got some food, ran out, and then my grandparents lent me their dehumidifier. That's super nice.
Oh, because of your
Good to
pipe.
go.
So
Yeah,
your pipe was like leaking the whole time you were away.
it must have been, yeah, because like because I was vacuuming up and I was like, oh, there's like water here. I'll like do it with the shop vac, and then I noticed it was like further back towards the like baseboard, not the
Yeah,
baseboard, but the base of the cabinet. I was like,
yeah.
what the heck? And then I seen like between the laminate flooring and stuff was like black and moldy. I was like, oh no, it was like all damp. And so I opened up the sink and then took everything out. Sure enough, it was all like a puddle and then dripping. So I just cleaned it up and then put some pots and stuff under there and
Well,
should be good.
you didn't have dead rabbits, so there's a your story sounds much tamer than when I returned from Barbados, and I had no water in the house and couldn't figure out why. And apparently, there's a water pump. Didn't know that existed, and didn't even know the house had such a thing. And it was back in one of the scary rooms downstairs. And what had happened is the rabbits had gotten the vent. So it used to be a wine cellar. So there's a wine cellar on one side and apparently this water pump thing on the other side. And so there's vents for the cellar, the wine cellar. And and so someone says you got to find this water thing. And so I open it up the door to look, and clearly the hose has been chewed, but there are dead rabbits everywhere because they had gotten through they had pulled off the vent, and they would just go through the hole thinking this was like an adventure, but the adventure was like it's an 8-foot drop and onto the concrete. And so
Dang.
some of them had clearly survived because they ate through the hose, but then they just had nowhere to go because it's all brick.
Oh, that's
Nightmare.
pretty horrifying.
Oh, it was it was like horror
That's
story.
nightmare fuel.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
now,
sad.
yeah. So I sealed up those things quite good, but it was brutal. Yeah.
That's
Lana
brutal.
says hello to her handsome friends.
Hello.
Hello, Lana. Lana.
Yeah, it was a
And
great trip though.
yeah.
Good weather. Yeah, it was fun.
And you went to Universal Studios.
Yeah, it was really fun. We surprised Brady for his birthday and we got the VIP tour. Yeah. And so like he didn't even like realize, he was like all just like looking around, and then like once we got to like where you like check in for breakfast and stuff,
Yeah.
he's like, oh, we're getting the VIP tour. Yeah, it was cool. So we didn't go for like 2 days. We just went for the one and did the
Yeah.
tour, and I mean it was worth it. You
Totally.
see everything, and
You
it was
do
really cool. They took us through the studio this time,
Yeah.
and we got to see like the makeup room and all that stuff, and it was really cool.
Awesome.
It was unreal.
Yeah.
Oh, and they took us. We didn't do this with you guys, but they took us. You know the Mummy ride? It's like all dark with Brendan Fraser. Yeah. And they took us like under the track, so like the roller coaster was like going right above your head.
Yeah.
It was like all pitch black and stuff. It was so cool. It was crazy.
Yeah. On different tours, I've done both those things. Yeah. Like
that's sick.
Yeah. And did your brother like that horrible ride, that green ride where you're upside down?
Green ride. Oh, the Hulk?
Yeah. Or
yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, he loves the roller coasters and stuff. Yeah, Maddie doesn't though. Maddie won't go on them. No. But they loved because me and Brady we went on the back for Velocicoaster. The back is
Oh,
like the
okay,
roughest part, fastest part. It was fun.
I'm trying to find out where this is. I found a picture of you. Let me see if I find it here. I thought maybe it was last weekend. I thought it was later this week, but I found a picture of you and I wanted to share it, but I can't find it now. Of you
Right.
on that roller on one of the roller coasters is one of your mom's pictures, and I edited
Oh,
I edited the others out because it literally looks like you're crying and about to die.
that's so funny. Yeah, I
I
was
tell you.
making a bunch of faces and stuff. It was fun.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you guys did that. It's so hard. You do it once, right? It's so hard to go back to any amusement park. Like it really is. I see Mance says, congratulates Nate on 10 years, which is very
That's
exciting.
amazing.
We are excited to have Nate join us tonight. He is. We're going to talk about recovery and addiction and paths forward and celebrate that wonderful achievement, but also just talk about that path, right? Because it's we spent last weekend with a group of young people, as you know, from Atlanta, Canada, and this was the project that we had envisioned together. And I just before we and Nate's in the studio in the green room, but we're going to bring him in a second. I just want to share a couple things with you first. These are some of the reflections coming out of that from the young people, and it's really a snapshot because I was doing a couple other things. You'd be proud of me. I had A&W for dinner, the first time I've had fast food like that in a long time.
What? Holy!
And,
How was
I'd
it?
say the onion rings were excellent. The burger was decent. The fries were not bad. The onion rings were really hot, like right hot. The fries weren't as hot, so they took away from it a little bit. And the whole thing was $21, which seems insane to me. Like I won't do that again because I
Yeah,
21
you got to pay for like the real beef and the real potatoes and all that
yeah,
stuff.
somewhere else, right? So
Yeah,
either way. So here we
crazy.
go. Throughout this weekend, I felt such a variety of emotions from hope, happiness, and sadness, but mostly I feel whole. I feel this experience was exactly what I needed right now.
So cool.
I
I was like couldn't stop looking at your guys' posts and stuff. I was loving it.
pretend this says met because I did get to this quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I met people who made me feel loved and appreciated. And in my community, I rarely get to experience those aspirations of comfort. I felt spiritually connected to everyone in the circle when we shared and when we smudged. I felt safe, something I generally can't feel around other people. That's literally a snapshot of like one sentence from four of the evaluations, and I just want to acknowledge you and the work that you put into this since last January and the conversations and the bringing it forward. And just a reminder that that event was absolutely fantastic. It was everything that was envisioned came out of it. And so I just want to lift my hands to you and know that you were missed. I shared that with you while you were away, but it was absolutely fantastic, and the reports are going to be incredibly powerful. So
That makes me
so
so
yeah,
happy, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's why
and
we do what we do.
it is totally exactly. It was, and I was talking to my friend Krista, and Simonic was in the car. We were driving home. We were at about we were about 40 minutes into the drive. And then Chris says, how'd it go? I'm like, it was perfect. And Simon was like, oh, why did you say that? And there were a bunch of flights that were like potentially delayed and stuff. And I'm like, everything's gonna work out. 25 minutes later, we're about to stop for a coffee with a friend of ours in a town that's not Ottawa.
Mm-hmm. Oh
And
no!
a call from Quana, and he's like, did you happen to take a red knapsack? And I was like,
Oh
I immediately saw a knapsack in a bag in my head, right? I'm like, I saw one. Pull over. We took one of the kids' bags
no! That's brutal.
with her ID. So back we
No.
oh yeah, status card and everything. So we drive back
That's
to
brutal.
Ottawa to the airport, meet up with them though, and so perfect outside of the fact that we stole a 17-year-old's gift.
Possessions.
But the conversation there, the number one issue that came out of the survey in Atlantic Canada was adults who use and abuse substances. And that was a big conversation that these young people took part in, and bravely and courageously.
Mm.
And so it seems suiting to invite our friend Nate, who folks will recognize Nate. And Nate's got a sidekick here as well, I see. And there is Nate and Zoe.
Hello,
Oh, yeah,
hello,
I'm like,
Zoe.
hi. So I'm gonna silence this do not disturb. Okay, there we go. Getting text messages coming through.
Oh,
There we go.
there you go. I think we can do it. We can do it all these fun ways too. We can do this actually. I think you're gonna be.
So you're the
Oh,
biggest
nice.
one, and then
Oh,
There we go.
There we go.
Perfect.
There we go. And there's Zoelicious. Hey, Zoe. Oh, Zoe's not on
just saying
headphones.
hi to you, Zoe. Yeah, I have on
Speech
my
fright.
headphones so she can't. Oh,
Oh.
she is the least stage fright of any kid. Couple. I just want to show because took the heart. I want to show before we get going. I wanted to because I know Brennan was on. I want to show just a couple accomplishments. So Zoe's being trained. I'm sorry. There's like two parents pulling the kid back and forth.
That's awesome.
My wife's telling her to go this way. I'm trying to get her to go this way. But Zoe has been training in jiu-jitsu for, I don't even know now, maybe a year.
Like a 3 years?
Not 3 years. So. Her concept of time. She also said her next birthday is in 1,000 years. So we're working on concept of time.
Nice.
But so she's a gray white belt. Can you show them your last promotion you just got at a seminar?
That's sick. Congrats.
So she's about to go on to a solid gray. Yeah, you can't see the white.
That's
So
sick.
that's pretty sweet. And then at the I just had a seminar too, and after 15 months out of a blue belt, I just got my first stripe there.
What? That's insane, man.
Yeah.
That's a huge accomplishment. You guys.
Yeah,
really
people don't realize what these little stripes mean. But because in jiu-jitsu there's not that many belts. So this is 15 months of lots of mat time. So yeah, pretty
That's
cool.
insane.
I wanted to share that though, because I know you're here and show Zoe her belt too.
Awesome.
You're a higher belt than me now, Zoe. Legit.
It was at the seminar when they lined up. It was funny because the professor there said, he's like, no, you line up ahead of the white belts, and it was pretty funny watching her have all these big guys and girls.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's getting there. All right, Zoe, want to say goodnight?
Sweet. What's your favorite submission, Zoe, so far?
What's your favorite submission?
Like to go on top of like the.
Yeah, to submit somebody. Do you remember some of them?
I would be doing the triangle choke.
Triangle choke.
Oh,
she did
sick.
what?
That's
She did one
too.
on me. She did a head arm on me yesterday, trying to give her a hug, and actually, she knows how to put her shoulder into your your jugular.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I love that.
It's pretty funny. Awesome. All right.
I won my first tournament with a triangle.
Nice.
My first tournament match.
Nice. Right now I win by smothering, just laying on top of people.
Nice. People underestimate that, man. Oh.
No.
All I'm picturing is, by the way, the Karate Kid. Jaylene. So here's Mance saying congratulations. Jaylene's giving you a claps. Tracy, amazing young people on those comments we were talking about. Paul says hello. Corey's like, hey Nate.
Hey Corey.
Tracy says, here we go. Whoop whoop. Zoe is here. Zoe is here. And Lana says, way to go, Zoe. Congratulations. And congratulations to Nate as well.
Awesome.
There we go. So Nate, it was perfectly timed because, as I said right before you came on, we spent last weekend with a group of young people from Atlantic Canada, from Labrador, Newfoundland, New Brunswick, PEI, and Nova Scotia. All Indigenous young people, First Nation and Inuit young people, who earlier we had done a survey of 12 to 18-year-olds from across 13 to 18-year-olds from across Atlantic Canada, and they were identifying the issues that were most pressing to them. And so the issue that was most weighted, the most significant, was adults who use substances, use and abuse substances. Second was poor mental health of young people, and third was youth who use or abuse substances. So those top three, and there were a number of other areas, and there were lots of strengths though as well. We also looked at the strengths of those young people, Indigenous youth in Atlantic Canada, and those strengths were really about being proud of their identity was the number one, and which is really powerful to see. And the best deterrent to substance use or abuse is that strength and identity. And so it is, I think, very promising to see that in that space. But that said, the reality is that adults' roles around substance use is really interesting. And you celebrated last week 10 years of continuous no drugs, and just to help people understand, no drugs, no alcohol. And because a lot of people get confused, right? Because we use the word, and you and I hang out in church basements sometimes, and as do millions of people around the world. Not always church basements, but it seems like a lot of them certainly in Canada are. And in that program we go to, we use the word clean, which references sober from like clean from any substance, mood altering substance, including alcohol. There is, I think, though, I often in my own life outside of those rooms use the term clean and sober so that people understand, not that there's a difference, because there isn't, but if I say clean, they actually don't know what I'm talking about, because it's not a term that's used by people who aren't affected or touched by addiction. Like, it just isn't. Clean means like you're not, like, remember when you had like that really shaggy beard and it was kind of gross and you had like food in it? like the Viking beard. Then that's the word they would think clean in that context, right? So so on this, so tonight when I talk about being clean and sober, or people being clean and sober, it's in reference to the fact that it's not everyone understands the terminology of clean, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think when I actually when I talk to folks, I say clean and sober on purpose for that reason too, because clean sounds like dirty as well, right? Yeah, as you said, to the beard, but which addicts aren't dirty like that. It's which we know, which I know of now. It is a disease that millions of people suffer from, and calling it. Yeah, so it is a confusing term because are they dirty then if they're not clean? So
yeah.
Sorry.
What did you say, Peter?
I just said 10 years. I was just like taken by that.
Yeah, and then this is kind of, so thinking about 10 years, and I know, and it's not, I've learned too, it's it is surreal, but there's someone sent me this little like stat of the breakdown, which I thought was kind of neat. So 10 years or 120 months, 522 weeks, 3,653 days, 87,660 hours, 5,259,600 minutes. Yeah, it's pretty crazy of being sober.
Yeah.
The minute one gets me because that's it was literally minutes, right? It was today. I've been sober 60 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 minute, right? Thought that was an interesting little stat there.
So when you think
it's so cool, even after 10 years, you still refer to the minutes. It's like it shows you that it's like a continuous. You gotta stick to it, like it's a commitment. Right?
Yeah, it's a way of life, right? Like it's which it took me a while to learn. Like when I first began my journey in sobriety, it was not supposed to be for life. It was let's deal with this problem that's in front of me now and get a control of things and then go back to it. And but the more you work with the literature and work with people, and you realize that that's not an option, but it's Yeah, it's a way of life. Absolutely.
And when you think back to 10 years ago, Nate, when you think back to 10 years ago, like the first time of identifying that you needed something, right? Something had to change. And was it you that identified it, or was it someone else? Because quite often it's not us who identifies that there's a problem. We may know it somewhere inside, deep inside, but quite often it is someone else who points it out.
Yeah, it's interesting because the journey is much longer than 10 years. As you know, any addict, alcoholic will know. Like I know when I first told someone I had a problem, and I think I told someone I had a problem to get out of trouble. So it was in high school, grade 11, I think, and I wasn't handing in assignments, and I was really late on stuff. So I thought that, yeah, if I told them, because I was, and it was a truth of me telling them I had a problem, but it was to get extensions. So I identified that in high school, but then went to a meeting, and I can't remember if it was Narcotics Anonymous or Cocaine Anonymous or the anonymous groups, or even if it was an anonymous group. And I was quickly turned away when I told them the reason I was there is for marijuana, because that's what the first kind of drug that really took me to my knees. And they kind of people there were for much harder stuff. And I learned that, oh, I'm okay. I'm not like them. And that, so it's kind of interesting to think of the journey, because at that point, a lot of things could have been kind of arrested and identified. But yeah, it was just deemed, oh, it's just like, it's this pot. It's just, he's young. Because I was also still captain of the football team. I was like I was almost valedictorian for my high school. I had great grades. I was in all the music groups. So I appeared good, but then deep down and way at home in the dark in the garage, back in the woods, I wasn't. But when this 10 years ago, because that was your question, I was miserable, and the person I lived with knew I was miserable, and that person also couldn't stand seeing me deteriorate, and kind of gave me like, you need to do something, or we're going to look at our relationship in a nice way. So I always said an ultimatum. She always said it wasn't like that, but I think I was basically given like, things have to change, or we're going to look at our relationship. So and around the same time, my dog Tika was diagnosed with cancer, and that I was given a free pass to use and drink, because my partner was so devastated as well that she just said, "Go nuts," and that was my last bottom, and so I went to counseling to deal with my dog's cancer. And the third day of counseling, the counselor, who also is a member of a 12-step fellowship, called me out and said, the first time you came in here, you smelt like booze and drugs, and I know that you're using. And so, yeah, so that's how it started, kind of that way. And then so it's funny how things worked out, but I was miserable for a long, long time. So. But it took me being allowed, because my using and drinking was so secretive. It took a horrible thing, and for someone to allow me to go even deeper, if that makes sense.
It's so brutal about the being turned away, especially at a young age. Like you're here, like, hey, like I'm identifying a problem, and then it just being minimized in your face. Like I can't imagine how hard that must have been to deal with.
It was weird. It was weird because I waved the white flag when I'm 15, 16 years old, which is huge. To wave that white flag is a big, that's our first step.
especially at
in
that
the 12
age.
steps. But I
that's
was
huge.
told, I was told that, oh no, you're okay. So I know when I see younger folks, I feel for them.
Well, and it's interesting, right? Because I think that message still exists and probably even more profound now. Because 10 years ago, it was not legal yet still, right? It was 2 years away from being legal. So it still was illegal. It still had all of that connotation to it, right? But now the reality is that there are lots of folks who have come to weed much like people had come to alcohol, like families, right? Like this is, oh well, it is what it is, and everyone is using it, and the reality is that and that seems to be this belief: everyone is using marijuana, right? And reality is that they're not daily or weekly users. Like it's only, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's 22 or 20 to 25% of boys under 18 are daily or weekly users. 10% of girls are daily and weekly users of cannabis. That is so far from everybody. It is so far from everybody. But kids think that everybody is doing it because their peer group is often doing it, right? But the other peer groups that exist aren't. Like as the grades go up, 9, 10, 11, 12, by grade 12, much larger number has tried it. But here's a fun fact. It's not everybody. It's not even like, and so part of it is that it is and it's a little tough because some of the research is geared at like 15 to 24, right? So it is a little harder to sort of like, and I'm not a fan of that research because I think it muddies the waters in these conversations. Because a 15-year-old and a 24-year-old are very different, right? But the reality is that with cannabis right now in Canada, young people are think that it's no more or less concerning than cigarettes. And here's the thing: cigarettes suck too. like it is. So for young people to find supports that are adequate and accurate, because the irony is that when we talk to young people in our work who are using substances, quite often there's an absence of positive self-identity, right? So they just don't know who they are, or they don't feel good about who they are. Often attached to race-based stuff, right? So for Black youth, for brown youth, for Indigenous youth, there is an absence of coping skills. So not knowing how to cope with the stressors and pressures in the world, particularly relationships. So no coping. And then peer pressure. Well, and here's the thing. Those have been the same three things for generations. And I'm stunned that we haven't figured out how to address that yet. It's mind-blowing to me. We've been looking at the same three reasons for use for generations, and we still don't know. We don't have a model or a plan to make it to create change. I don't know. I just think it's interesting to me.
Was that a conversation that you guys were able to have in Ottawa this past weekend?
Not specifically around that, not about the generations, but certainly they talked about how adults in their lives use affects their decision making, right? And Nate, your kids, and Nate has two kids, Zoe, who we just met and we've met before on the show, and Penny, who is not. We heard Penny tonight.
Yeah.
And Penny is 9 months old. Is that right?
Yeah, she'll be 9 months in 5 days.
There you go. So Penny's 9 months.
That's awesome.
So neither of those children have ever seen you under the influence. And what a gift!
Huge. That is huge.
Yeah, I know. I'm very, very fortunate for that, for sure.
I think even just the way that you talk about it and the way that you share your views and you're open about speaking about it, that's huge too. Right? That must
Zoe,
just this conversation right now, right? It's in public. It's something that they can they could go back and watch. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Zoe's been at every celebration that I've had too, and she doesn't really get it yet. She still, it's pretty funny.
Awesome.
Like she still teaches at school. I think Peter's heard this. It's funny, but like she tells her teachers or other people that I go to meetings because I'm allergic to Coke.
Aw.
But
That's a great way of looking at it.
she thinks it's like Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Which, but yeah. So she gets to, and it's very interesting. Her world view. I just think of that and just how I was brought up. And I wasn't like substances weren't in my family, but I heard about it a lot from my about my grandfather and both grandfathers and cousins and uncles and but my immediate family with my mom and my sister, we didn't see it around. But I just think of Zoe's view on things it's very different from my view because I didn't hear about recovery. That's the thing. I heard about my grandfather taking his own life, and I heard my other grandfather about being violent when he was drunk, and I heard about my cousin who was absolute, but I never heard the recovery. So Zoe's story as a child is she hears about recovery, someone in recovery, someone who's recovered, a solution to. And I pray all the time, and I hope, and I know with my program I can't control things, but I really hope that she doesn't have that same disease of self that I have. But if she does, at least she kind of knows, she knows what the solution is. But I just hope but you can't, I know I can't control that. I'm sure my parents didn't think that was the last thing on their mind. So, it's interesting.
The fact
So
that
I was
she
just
has
gonna say it's just
sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say it's just you can see like my sister and I were close in age, raised under the same roof, and I went one way of dealing with things, and she went one way of dealing with things. So it just shows that it's not. I don't know what the research is. I'm not an expert, but genetics and family history and what it is. But you hear people who have the most amazing lives and end up going to drugs and alcohol. So, and the people who have the absolute worst lives and they never turn to it. So it's there's no real rhyme or reason. But anyhow, Brandon, you were saying.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, the fact that she has a support system that she can even just go to and like confide in is just like that probably is gonna be so positive.
Yeah, and those thoughts. I'm thinking a lot. I'm always constantly thinking too because I know and I'm an educator, so I work with kids all the time, and I know like the ages when they start experimenting and when things come around, and I'm talking to my partner Sarah now, and I'm like, what do we do when Zoe's at that age? Do we do we allow her and her friends to like we had a friend's house that was a safe place to consume alcohol. Like, is that positive? Is that negative? Is it better to be behind the LCBO in on Friday night at 11:30 in the woods somewhere, or is it better to be in a state? I don't know. I don't know what the solution is to that. With experimentation of teenagers. I know it's terrifying now with what you don't know what's in things, right? Like I was talking to someone saying, like, do I need to give my kid a tester kit now? Because, kids are going to experiment and they get some thinking it's cocaine or something. And all of a sudden it's laced with fentanyl and that's it. So I don't it's pretty scary now. I'm really glad
it's so
actually.
common now too.
Yeah. And I was saying to my partner that I'm so grateful during my when I was into that type of stuff, that wasn't around. Like we just had to worry about baby powder or baby formula, but not freaking fentanyl, right? Like it's really scary. So I know we're getting on a tangent of that, but I just as a parent now, I think about that all the time and how because I know if I overbear on her and I'm like over protective over drugs and alcohol, that she's going to rebel and then behind my back and it's not on it. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is on that, but
Well,
so
it's
yeah.
First of all, before I provide some comments, someone says, "Hello, sunshine." Oh my gosh, you
That's
smell sunshine.
That's my mom. Yeah.
Don't worry, Brennan's mom comments all the time on this program.
Yeah.
Very similar. So one of the things I think that's important to recognize, at least from the work that we do and the way we look at this, both in my own life as someone who's in recovery, but also in our work life, is that addiction is a disease, and like American Medical Association, like it's seen in that light, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's no different than diabetes, cancer, heart disease. It's combination of factors that is what causes it, and they can be behavioral or psychological or environmental and biological as well. And we don't know the answer of can it be passed, but in theory, all those other diseases can also potentially be passed genetically, right? And so my takeaway is always that it can be this combination of things. And like you said, some people will never experience that form of addiction, right? And why, when we do our work, we try to separate it into three groups of folks. There's folks who use drugs or alcohol, and it may not cause any disruption or harm in their life. And it's not to say it can't, because maybe they have too much to drink and they fall down the stairs, right? But it's not going to, their behavior isn't going to cause any unrepairable harm per se. Then you have folks who are abusing substances, and they might be dependent on them, right? Physically, and like genuinely dependent on those substances. They might not be, but it's causing some disruptions in their life. They're not, for an example, not handing in stuff at school. They're late for work. They might have a DUI. Who knows, right? But those folks, they aren't addicts though, because these substances are addictive by nature, right? Like chemically addictive. Alcohol is addictive. Drugs are addictive. Nicotine is addictive. Coffee is
medications.
Medications, coffee, everything, sugar, right? So these folks, it's a second group, quite often they might find themselves, they might need treatment, right? They might even need a 12-step program. They might need something to help them break away from what they're using, because again, what they're absent of is knowledge about substances, about substance use, about themselves, and they might need the skills to not go down that path again. And then they will, and if we can give them that, but they might not need to go to a meeting for the rest of their life. Like, and in fact, some of those folks, maybe they can drink alcohol or smoke weed. Who am I to say, right? Because their substance abuse issue wasn't an addiction. There was a chemical dependency, which is very different than addiction. Addiction is the illness piece, and the thing about addiction is that again, from our take on this in this area, is some people the switch gets flicked and other people it doesn't. In the same way that people have genes for epilepsy, say, right? They have every sign that they could have epilepsy, but they never have a seizure in their life. They even go to like places with flashing lights and whatever, right? If that's one of the triggers they have, but they never have a seizure in their life because the switch never gets clicked for them. For other folks, and that's folks who have the disease of addiction, those folks, that switch, if it gets switched, they end up in hopefully church basements, right? And or treatment centers and or wherever. And they get the tools to not use again. And if when our work, the reason we look at it in those three spaces is we want to ensure that folks are getting what they need, right? And getting the accurate information that they need. It is, I would never say this in meetings because I don't want someone who's sitting in a chair who introduce themselves as an addict to think otherwise, right? If they're saying that, then they're saying that. But we are easily led our broken little brains, right? So when we talk about this, I would never talk about it in the rooms because I don't want to suggest to someone that maybe you're not an addict. Maybe you just have a substance. Maybe you just are dependent, right? And with the right tools and things, you can go back to doing whatever. Because I never would want to suggest that to someone who says I'm an addict. Like, but that disease of addiction, when that switch gets flicked, it can come out in all these different ways. It's like you've heard of dry drunks, right? Like the folks who don't drink either, and you haven't, Brennan. So a lot of times people stop drinking or using, and here's a fun fact: they're just as big pricks as they were when they were using. Like the same behaviors are there, right? The same, and whether it's aggression or violence or insert whatever else, right? Self-centeredness. That self-centeredness is just remains. It doesn't go away. And so anyways, long and short of it, I don't know where I'm going with this, but when we look forward, when I'm looking at the issue of substance abuse and addiction, I want to make sure that we have supports available for folks because none of those three categories matters when it comes to push comes to shove. That the reality is that people are dying. Like this is a crisis in Kingston and Cole Harbor last year. A teenager died of an overdose. They thought they were using party drugs. Cole Harbor in Nova Scotia, where they thought they were using party drugs, and he died. And a string of other people, I think, died in Halifax that week as well from the same.
In Truro too, there's a couple young people that like I went to school with that passed away from overdose, like accidental overdose. Yeah. And actually, a cousin of mine was even they're younger than me. They had a heart attack from like a bad batch or something. Yeah,
it is, and we have
it's so common.
We have to be doing something because, and I know we are, and I know you are, Nate, and the reality is that folks in these church basements, they are doing a lot, and to be able to help address this, right? When I first came around, there were like 3 or 4 meetings max in a week. Now here in this area, is it 21, 22, 23, something like that?
A week?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is. And so it's about continuing to provide those opportunities, I think, right? And continuing to support organizations that are working on the issue. Like, none of them are going to be perfect by any means, but it's about supporting those organizations that are doing stuff to be able to lessen the risks that people are facing. And when I think about folks like you and I, and some of our other friends with that same window of time, like that 10 to 20 years, I'm so grateful that we're here because to be out there today frightens the hell out of me. Like it is.
I would. There's no way I would be here today. I know that how desperate I was with whatever I could put, and I think it's. I don't like talking about specific drugs because I don't like. As you said, we don't want to like divide, right? To make someone think that like what I was when I was younger, going to a meeting and thinking that what I was using wasn't hard enough. But the stuff I was the stuff I was putting into my body, I didn't care what it was, right? So that's what freaks me out is because it would be laced with what is going around right now, and that does terrify me. And even just oh my God, I watched some you should leave it up to humans to try to take everything to the extreme. I'm seeing this crazy potent THC, what is it called, like tar or something, Brennan? I don't know, you know what I'm talking about? This they call it like
the crystal stuff,
but they put it in this like really special apparatus that but it's like I've watched videos of these people just coughing their brain, and I'm just so grateful because I was always looking for the next step, and sometimes I go down the rabbit hole on social media or Reddit or something, and I see this new stuff that's going on, and I'm not the person who can handle it. And when you're describing the three people, I was laughing a bit because man, I hated the first and second group, those people so much, because a lot of them were my friends. Like, and there was a huge difference of, when I was living in Montreal, my one friend would stop so he can go to work in the morning. Like that, that's group 2 or group
That's
1,
brutal.
and where that was not an option.
Mhm.
He would get to work where like I never got a job because I couldn't. So I hated those people, but I hated them out of my selfish, like, be jealous because I want to be able to be a 1 or 2. But I know today that I'm not, and I will never be. I will never be. So and that's what I have to tell myself every single day. I was just speaking to a bunch of people. So I do part of my it's not even service work. It's I have a part-time job with the hospitals here, and you're talking about people doing good things. So right now, Kingston Health and KHSC. My wife's gonna smack me for not knowing. It was Kingston Hospital, and you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Thanks to health sciences.
Health sciences. So right now they have a music therapy initiative because it's been shown that music really helps with people at their lowest points and just lifting them up. So I've been doing music therapy in Burr 4, which I don't know how to describe that to people who don't know what Burr 4. I guess the psychiatric unit.
Yep,
and then at the detox center in Kingston, so people who are at their lowest detoxing. So I went in today, and there was six clients there that were on various days of detoxification.
Do you
play music?
Do you play only Bob Marley songs?
Yeah, no. I do the Three Little Birds song. And I explained the story, but I play a lot of my own music, and I play music with the whole purpose of them feeling, giving them a little break, then also sneaking in a little bit of hope of my story. But I was telling them today, and I can see where I do the music therapy with them. I can see the parking lot, and I always remind them that I'm here today, not just for being a job or whatever, but I'm here for myself because my alcoholic addictive mind is in that parking lot doing push-ups, and it is so strong. It is so strong, just waiting for me to slip, and I know it's there, and it's taken me a long time to know that, right? But I know it's always there because it's constantly trying to justify in my head now. So I have to. So it's not easy, but it's definitely worth it, and it's a lot easier than going back out and drinking and using. That's for sure.
Yeah. Corey says shatter. That's what I said. That was that.
It's insane. I'm sorry. It's absolutely. I couldn't believe to leave it up to people to try to find what is the most intense way for me to get high before it kills myself. It's just crazy.
Yeah. But then we also have this though from Lana. Thank you so much, Nate, for being so open to sharing your story. You're a phenomenal person, and your children love you as their father, teacher, friend, and support. You are an inspiration to others. I raise my hands up to you, my friend.
Thank you, Lana.
Love that.
So when I think of recovery, Nate, I don't know if your take is the same. I think everyone would benefit from the 12 steps.
Oh my God.
What 12 steps you do, right? That does all those things. And I can tell you because the language might not be what you're used to. There's the God part, which a lot of people have to wrap their heads around. In my case, I thought I had to wrap my head around it. What I really wanted to do was use it as an excuse to not go and keep using, right? And I've suggested that to people who get wound up by the God stuff. And they're like, no, it's not true. It's the God. It's this. And I can't be forced to say God. And I'm like, yeah, when you're really ready, you'll know that it doesn't matter. Because it's not God, God, it's not Allah, it's not Buddha, it's none of those things. Either way, it was 50 years ago, truthfully, right? We got to be honest. 50 years ago, 60 years ago now, 70 years ago when this program started, got quite a big. He had a big market share, and these programs were anchored in that, right? Like, and so either way, not today. But that all said, I lost my train of thought.
But yeah, the 12. You're saying like the 12. I completely
everybody.
agree.
Yeah.
And I have like my sponsor he always speaks of how much he likes addicts because they are better people. That's it. But like because especially addicts who've worked a program of recovery, because the baggage is gone, the self-centeredness is like gone, or like, you know, not as centered in self. And just like the way, like I play hockey with a bunch of recovery guys, and you think like hockey is a very violent, aggressive sport. And it's amazing how it still is a violent, aggressive sport in my recovery guys, but you know, something happens and then, you know, instead of reacting, it's like coming over, giving them a hug, texting them later. Like it's just, you see how it's dealt with in recovery versus how it's dealt with not in recovery. But I've always, you know, even with my daughter and my wife, I'll you know, because gratitude is one of the principles of in the, you know, 12 steps talks about, in the literature talks about gratitude. So I'll say, what are you grateful for today? Getting them out of that negative talk. You know, what is something, you know, and we go through that, and we go, so it's almost like it's because it's being a part of my life, the people that are also in my life are subjected to that. But yeah, if everyone did a fourth step, which is making a moral and fearless inventory of ourselves, if everybody did that, which is not fun, right? Like really identifying all the baggage that you're carrying with you and your part in things, and it would be, oh my God, there'd be a much better world.
And
So what are the 12 steps?
It's funny you should ask, Brennan Goo Goo. Funny that you should ask.
The 12 steps of recovery.
Okay, so these are that was so beautifully timed. So I want to share this with you. This is a video from let me find it just to give them some credit. The Watershed Addiction Treatment Program. So this is from them. So this is the 12 steps. And I actually have it, and truth be told, I haven't watched it, so it could suck, but I think it looked good. So but it was earlier, and I was like, I wanted to get it on. And so either way, this is, I think, important for everyone to watch. And again, like you were saying, Nate, like everyone could benefit from these processes. Take the word God out if you need to, whatever. Take the substance out. It can be cake. So I've done the 12 steps. Many people in recovery do the steps over and over again, like the actual writing of stuff, pen to paper, right? And I think am I blocked? You can't see me, can you? Hold on.
No, you can just see Nate.
Oh, okay. Oh, I can actually only see
in the video.
Oh, that's funny because I can only see Nate. I don't know what people can see at home, but if you got Nate, you're good. Either way, I'll come back to it. This is we're gonna do this screen here. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
No, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do cinema layout. There we go. I think that's everyone.
Perfect. Yeah.
The screen and not us, I think. Okay. So this is the 12 steps of recovery for folks.
Inspired by the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. Brought to you by The Watershed. Step 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol and drugs, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of a higher power as we understood him. Step 4. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5. We admitted to our higher power, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6. We were entirely ready to have our higher power remove all these defects of character. Step 7. We humbly asked our higher power to remove our shortcomings. Step 8. We made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9. We made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10. We continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11. We sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with our higher power as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. Step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and addicts and to practice these principles in all our affairs. This video
Interesting.
has been brought to you by The Watershed. Should you or someone you know need help, please call our 24-hour toll.
All right. I think that's in the States, so you don't need their number. But
And I think it's really expensive too.
I bet it is. That said, if the 12 steps are just really, really just so solid, right? Like, admit that you're powerless over the addiction and your life's unmanageable. Like, it is. I've always been drawn to Russell Brand pre his craziness, but maybe not pre actually. I
Love
guess.
his YouTube channel.
But you love his YouTube channel?
Yeah.
So
Me too.
his 12 steps are interesting. So the first one is we admitted that we were powerless over our addiction, and you can insert whatever it is there, right? That our lives have become unmanageable. His first step is, are you a bit fucked? And it goes from there. I would strongly suggest checking that out. But it is, I think that's number one. Is your life unmanageable? Like, are you powerless? Like, and for me, today was a big day because tomorrow I'm going to start the phasing out of all the sugar and crap food that started a month ago. I did well for about 3.5 weeks, went on vacation, intentionally knowing that I was going to, and in fact, relapse would be the word, like eat what I want, when I want, how much I want, which is all of it, and which is more of everything. And so tomorrow is the day that I start this process again and come back to it. So I don't like how it makes me feel. And I also don't like the fact that I do it because of how I feel. And so tonight I was driving back. I went to the gym today, was coming back, and I intended to get some donuts for this belly because I'm like, I'm going to stop one more time. I'm going to stop at Coffee
One
Way
more time.
and get those donuts for tonight, and I'll have some last donuts. And I did the
one
same
last time.
I did the same thing with booze. I did the same thing with drugs, like countless times. One last time, and I didn't stop. So that made me feel really good. Like, it made me feel like I felt that, like, I'm not powerless over it, right? Or no, sorry, I am powerless over it because I had those thoughts, right? But it doesn't have to be unmanageable. And I've done the 12 steps, like the writing over with food, twice now in my life. Like I came into these rooms 16 years ago, and I've used it for a number of those 12 steps for a number of things.
I like that you said I am powerless. Like, you went back and corrected yourself. Like, I think that's really cool that you acknowledge it's okay to be powerless and to feel that way.
Totally. Like, I put sugar in my body, and I just want more of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other important thing to just talk about why I like their version of the 12 steps. They removed God and they talked about higher power. I think that makes it a lot more inclusive to people. I'm not sure. I know AA and NA are because it's been such a proven program how it's been written. The purists don't want to change it, and I get that. But that's a lot more inclusive. But the big word for me that connected for me was the word we, because every single step says we, and all my life it was I I can't do this. I can't do this alone. And then when I got to doing the 12 steps, it was we, because it is a group program with other people supporting you, not doing it alone. So I encourage anyone, really. And I still, to this day, I have a group of people that I go to and for support, because I alone can't do this, because my will has me doing ridiculous things, horrible, ridiculous things. So I have to rely on others or a higher power, whatever, however you want to say it. But that word "we" for me, that was a light switch. Because when I went to treatment, it was I, right? It was Nate, you're here, Nate, you're here, Nate, and it wasn't until there was a really great joke I heard last night, actually. We had a little banquet for our recovery hockey, and we had some people from Quinty come. And the one guy said I spent $2,500 to realize the 12 steps were free. I thought that was funny, right? Because you go to these treatment centers, which, as you said, Peter, that can be the changing point for like that group 1 and group 2. But for me, it wasn't until the 12 steps. I went to treatment, and it was good at recognizing. I don't know. It wasn't until that we switch. I don't know what I was going on with that, but it's just I'm very passionate. Yeah.
So for me, it was a little different for me, because I had treatment provided me that open door. Like, it opened the door and it gave me a little bit of grounding, some knowledge, right? Some tools, some introduction to the 12-step program.
So your place was a 12. See, so I should preface that. I don't want to interrupt you, but the place I went to was not a 12-step place.
Yeah. So it just gave me this, it opened the door, but I honestly thought I was going to be cured, right? Like, I thought I was going to go there and I would leave and I'd be all better.
Like a hospital.
But here's the fun fact, is that there is no endpoint in all better, because it's this disease, right? And that was what they framed really aggressively with me, was helping me understand that I live with a disease that is, although treatable, not curable. And so when I leave, I've got to do certain things. So when I left treatment, I started going to 12-step meetings. I went to both programs, AA and NA, to start with, right, for the first number of years. I went to aftercare, like peer-based counseling with 5 or 6 amazing people who I spent 3 years with once a week. And I don't commit to anything or anyone. And I went almost every week to that session. And started doing the work within the 12-step program, right? But like many of us in these 12-step rooms, I didn't do it when I came in. I did it a couple of years down the road, and I did it in a number of different ways. But one time was so significant that my life changed absolutely 100%. And when that happened, everything about my life got richer and better. And it didn't mean that there weren't shitty times, because both of you know in my life there's been. But at the end of it, though, is that I was able, it wasn't unmanageable. The shitty times aren't unmanageable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is not, and I'm being quite genuine, in the last 13 years, there has not been a moment that I thought, this will get easier if I use. Like, it has just, I've thought, if I wanted to fuck this up even more, I would get right high. Like, and I have no desire to do that. Like, the obsession around using has been removed, using drugs and alcohol. At times, the obsession around food has been removed. And not just what I'm eating, but even in my healthy modes, right? Even in my eating healthy, there's no obsession attached to it anymore. It's about just doing the best I can do with what I've got, right? Like, and every part of my life is richer. But the most significant, and I think I was saying this the other night, is now it is like you're right, Nate. It's a we program, and the we program, instead of a me program, is the we part is that I actually then care for other people. Like it's not just what I can get out of that we. It's that I have a role and responsibility, not just in the church basements, but in my community or communities. Like my understanding of we, I write emails and I always write we, even though I might be the only one sitting at the table. Like, and it's just inherent now in my brain because in the world that I'm living in, I need the we.
Yeah.
And well beyond, it's like, so I'll do what I can do to give back and pay forward what's been gifted to me in a 12-step program. But for me, that we means beyond that. It's this program, right? Like this Sunday nights at 7. For years, Brennan and I now have been doing this. And the first 2.5 years, we only missed 10 episodes or 12 episodes in 2 years, right? For 2.5 years. Like, so we only missed 10 or 12 Saturday nights out of 104 or whatever it is. Like, that's amazing. And that's that we part, right? Like, then this summer we took a pause and we learned that a lot of people do fun stuff on Saturday nights.
It's funny too, because like we started this program. I mean, you started it and then I hopped on, but like it really was just like to take care of each other and us and to just keep checking in and kind of have something to help us through the everything that was going on and here we are now.
And that's what your music does for folks too, right, Nate? Like just a little side twist is that music and you're using it now in this beautiful way, right? And you're sharing your gifts with folks who are at their most vulnerable, and music heals. And we've talked about this on the show dozens of times with different artists. And so again, make sure you check out Nate on YouTube there. And that's a very long link, so that's probably not helpful.
Yeah, it's true.
But it is. Let's see if I don't know if I can. Let me see if I can. I don't know. Either way, it's a really long link. But look up Nate Zahn on YouTube and Apple Music and Spotify, everywhere else where you find music. And I was so excited today. I went on your YouTube channel and subscribed. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube tonight, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, all that blah, blah, blah. We're told we're supposed to say that every episode so that people
thumbs up, like it.
Yeah, like thumbs up. Yeah.
Comment.
Oh, here, this is it here. If you enjoy, this is it. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to hit like and click that share button so others can come along with us. Yeah, I'm trying to listen to these folks who are giving good advice, but I just have no time for it. But look up Nate Zahn at YouTube and Apple Music and Spotify, and because that music is fantastic. That's where you've been on the show previously a number of times. I do want to just share one thing. Addiction at its worst brings us to places that are incredibly dark and scary. And what's very exciting right now is that there is in Canada a new line that you can call or text 988 across the country. Of course, available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 988. It's a suicide crisis helpline. If you are ever feeling like there is no other way, I assure you and promise you there is. And for the first time in this country, there's a number that anyone can call, 988. If you feel like you're going to hurt yourself or you're at risk of hurting yourself, know that there's going to be people who are going to answer that call and be there for you. I think it's just important that we recognize that when we talk about addiction, that is the place. That was my place, right? I spent years of my life just wishing for the end to come and using amounts and substances that I thought were going to do that. And I'm so grateful today that that's not where I'm at today. And I don't have to be. So again, if you are listening to this at home or another day you're watching this and you're struggling, you call that number if you ever need to. And regardless of whether it's addiction or anything else.
It's so amazing that like you can have like these such deeply dark times that you can go and reflect on, but in hindsight, like you're here in this where you're at now in life, and like and in that moment you wouldn't have been able to picture it or imagine it, right? But like here you are now, and it's just such a it's such a beautiful thing.
Mm.
And it was very cool with those young people last weekend. And there were a number of us who were sober, right? And so to be able to have those conversations and talk about sobriety, and a young woman who has been sober now for 4 months.
Oh, that's awesome.
And and you know, and the reality is that there are so many stories of hope. We talk about addiction, and we often talk about it in that conversation. It's a crisis, and I don't want to take away from that. But you and the miracle that is you, Nate, like that, and I'm thinking about you in the detox center and in the hospital playing music for people. Like that is not desperation. That is not isolation. That is not hurt. That is not pain. It is healing and it's recovery. And the greatest narrative that you have is that recovery does and can work if you, not to sound cheesy, but if you work it.
Before you, can I just acknowledge one thing before you wrap up here, Peter? Because it sounds like you're wrapping it up. I just want to say it's pretty amazing, and I know Peter has shared this with you. Sorry, this one. I just want to show this here. So it was pretty special that this year my mom actually gave me this medallion. So that was like very special too. Like, and I think she's on. Yeah, there she is. Or that's my stepdad. I don't know who that is, but yeah. So that meant a lot to me to be given that from my mom after just showing all the growth over those like 10 like just I'm 40 now, so yeah, the 40 years of her with me. So yeah, it definitely is for anyone listening, it's definitely obtainable and doable and it's worth it. So and it's never too late.
Never too late.
Wow.
Never at all. We're both here for you, Nate, says your mom. So at the end of the day, there are paths forward, and hopefully people know that and understand deeply just how much you matter in this world, and the two of you included. I am those quotes we started the show with, Brennan. That is your heart and your spirit, right? Your ideas, your visioning allowed young people to have those feelings last week and to talk about some really seriously heavy issues in a most powerful and healing way. Like, again, when I said it was perfect, outside of stealing a kid's bag, it was perfect. Absolutely perfect. And that matters, and you matter so much. And Nate, we've been friends for 10 years, and I have loved watching you grow up. And that picture we used on the promo of you 10 years ago, I just howled because like you're just a baby, but you're not a baby. You're 30 years old, but you just look like such a baby in that soccer hat, like that leaf hat, football that is, maybe basketball.
It seems like 10 years doesn't seem that long, but like that seems like 1,000 years ago. Like thinking about where I was with that picture. As Tina always says, our friend Tina, I don't know if she watches the show. She should. Is she called me Peter Pan when I first came into those rooms, those meetings, because I was just the boy who didn't want to grow up.
And to see you today, I am living life, working through life's challenges, building a family, practicing and finding out who you are, and the ever long path of just healing and processing. And that's what we all have to do in this life. We carry these hurts, and some of them are little ones and some are big ones, and some that are little in your heart are huge in mine, and vice versa. And if we work through them, if we acknowledge them, it gives us the ability to work through them. And I feel bad for folks who just can't, and I see them in the world, right? Hello, Sarah.
Oh, Peter saying hi.
At the end of the day, though, is that I look at folks and I really feel bad for them. I'm like, oh, like you can't find a way through it. And I'm like, oh, in my heart, I'm like, sorry for that. Like, I'm sorry you can't, because this is, it is freedom from chaos and freedom from so much. So with that, we're going to, we'd like to close with a few little closing thoughts. So if you have a thought for someone who's watching at home, Nate, tonight, what would you have? What would you share with them?
Oh, I think just kind of, yeah, it's never too late to like live the life that you've always dreamed of. Like it really is never too late for that.
Awesome. And Brennan Gugu.
No matter how hard it seems, like sometimes I think there's always somewhere you can find that you're loved and accepted. True
that. I will just share with the young woman who last weekend said, she was talking to someone who said, oh, Brennan, he hosts that TV show, or he hosts that podcast. And I'm like, oh, does he? She says, yeah, it's really good. I'm like, oh, is it? Says, yeah. I'm like, oh, fun. And I'm like, just like a co-host? And she says, yeah, some other guy. And I'm like, that's me. That's me.
No way, that's so funny.
I was like, my ego was just, I love it when 15-year-olds just put me in my place. But
so funny.
But at the end of the day, none of that necessarily matters. What matters is having the connection with the people around us.
Brennan is the hip one though of the show, right? You know
he is totally. Yes.
Look at all this, man. Look how hip this is.
He's the hip one. Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you. We are going to close with one last video. Because the benefit of 12-step programs, they all have them. Doesn't matter which one. They have daily readings, and so in Narcotics Anonymous, there's a book called Just for Today, and it has all these different readings. And on days that I'm lazy, I pop over to this other website, and I have it acted out and read to me. And I don't know if you've ever seen this before, Nate, but so we're going to close with this. Once the video is done, we'll be gone. But until see you next Sunday. Thank you, Nate, so much for coming to hang out with us. And it's so delightful that we asked you to come and didn't ask you to play music, even though I wanted to. I fought all temptations. And we'll have you back on when you have a new song. Make sure you check them out on YouTube, Apple Music, and
you should have me over. I have a really good song for fathers on Father's Day. You should have me on.
Sounds good.
You have a little live show in the living room.
Live show in the living room.
Little performance.
Very cool. And Brennan Gugu, we will chat this week, no doubt, and catch up on the project. And this is today's Just for Today reading for all of our friends at home. We're going to do this, and we're going to do this.
For today, for Narcotics Anonymous, March 3rd, relapse. There will be times, however, when we really feel like using, we want to run, and we feel lousy. We need to be reminded of where we came from and that it will be worse this time. This is when we need the program the most. Basic text, page 78. If we're contemplating a relapse, we should think our using through to the bitter ends for many of us. Those ends would include severe medical problems, imprisonment, or even death. How many of us have known people who relapsed after many years clean, only to die from their disease? But there is a death that accompanies a return to active addiction that may be worse than physical. Death? That is the spiritual death we experience when we are separated from our higher power. If we use, the spiritual relationship we have nurtured over the years will weaken and perhaps disappear. we will feel truly alone. There is no doubt that we have periods of darkness in our recovery. There is only one way we can make it through those troubling times, with faith. If we believe that our higher power is with us, then we know that all will be well. No matter how badly we may feel in our recovery, a relapse is never the answer. Together, we find recovery if we stay clean. The darkness will lift and we will find a deeper connection to our higher power. Just for today, I thank my higher power for the gift of NA. I know that relapse is not the way out. Whatever challenges I face, I will face them with the God of my understanding.